Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I'm going to show you just some quick tips on how to prepare before you go on a road trip, making sure you've got everything covered so that way you can minimize your chances of getting into an accident, breakdowns, things like that. Let's go ahead and get started. Now these tips that I'm going to show you are just basic safety tips that you want to be checking normally anytime you're driving, but especially if you're going on a long distance trip, whether you're going to be doing a lot of traveling for work or for sports with your kids, things like that, or if you're going on a road trip, traveling around the country, things like that. You want to make sure that the vehicle is in good condition, that you're safe. If anything goes wrong, that you're prepared for that. If you want to check out one of the other videos that I did as far as just making sure your vehicle's safe just for common everyday driving, I'll have that link down in the description. Also have it across the top. But for this one here, let's take a look here. Now the first and obvious one you want to do is you want to check your tires. You want to inspect your tires. You want to make sure that your tire pressure is to spec. If you want to see how to check your tire pressures to spec, you can check out my video via the link above, also down in the description. On the inside of your driver door, whether it's along the inside here, along the bottom, the door itself, you'll find the specs for your tires as shown here. On this label right here, you'll find the details there for your tire as far as the PSI for the front and rear. And you want to make sure that all four of your tires are filled up to proper spec so that way you're not riding around with tires that are overinflated or underinflated. Next thing you want to do is you want to just take your hand, run it along the tire all around on all of them. Make sure that there's no cupping or odd wearing or threads or anything around the back. Sometimes you can't notice it if you're just looking at the front. You also want to check your tires, and I'll get a close-up. You want to check your tread depth. There's a depth indicator, kind of like a little wear line on your tires. You want to look at that, and you want to make sure that your treads are above that. If they are at that level or lower, definitely want to change your tires because you're getting too low at that point. I'll have a link across the top down in the description where I go more in depth about that. But you just want to just do a visual inspection on all four of your tires, and as mentioned already, just feel along the back as well, because sometimes there can be cupping and stuff happening on the inside that you can't see. Another thing you want to do is you want to check your brake pads. If you're going to be doing a lot of driving, make sure that your brakes aren't coming down near the end. Most of the time you can see it if you have open rims like this. If not, you may have to take a tire off and just look at the pads and make sure that there's enough brake on there and that it's not coming near the edge. Looking here, you can see the brake pads there against the rotors. Definitely have a lot of brakes still on there, so we're good with this one. Also, I always check for leaks because sometimes if your wheel cylinders, if the boot starts to dry rot and leak, you might get a little bit of brake fluid leaking out. So you want to get under the vehicle. You want to check and make sure that there's no wet spots around all four wheels. Also underneath for oil as well. You want to take a look at that and make sure nothing's leaking. Everything looks good under here, nice and dry. Next thing, the important one, we want to check our fluids. We want to be looking at our oil level. If you're able to check transmission fluid, a lot of newer cars, it's contained, there's not a dipstick, but if you're able to check that as well, you also want to be looking at your coolant levels as far as your water levels in there. You want to look at your brake fluid, all that. Let's pop this up and take a look. Take our dipstick here. I'll get a close-up of the oil, and this one's a little bit low, so we definitely want to top that off. Since our levels are low, we're obviously going to top it off, so we're going to add some oil. You want to make sure you're putting the proper motor oil for your vehicle. And this one wasn't too bad, so let's check it now. Want to wipe it off. Now that it's clean, we'll try again. There we are. Right on point. And just so you know, I always keep at least 1 or 2 quarts of oil in my trunk. Also, additional other fluids that might be necessary, especially if you're going to be doing some traveling if you do wind up in a situation where you notice that levels are low. Also water, extra things like that if you need to top anything off. Keep some of that extra in your trunk. That way you're safe. Let's check the rest of it. Next thing that I checked, we have our windshield washer cleaner right here. And these things fog up. It's hard to really tell the level. So I'm going to just shake the car. You can see the level. You can see it right there. Never know when you need to clean your windshield. You don't want that running out on you. Then we have our coolant, which is right down here. You can see the level right there, that dark line, just above the full. See if I can get it. There it is. You can see it. So that's good. We come along here. We have our brake fluid. See our max line. It's hard to tell, but it is right at our max line. And open as well and check, but you can see the fluid in there. Definitely want to be safe with that. Now on that vehicle there, you don't have a separate canister for the power steering and you can't access the automatic transmission fluid. This one you can. So let me show you. Here's our power steering fluid. So you would check that as well. It has a dipstick here on that where you can see if it's full, which this one is perfect. You can see that. And then for the automatic transmission on this one, we have a dipstick right here that you can pull out to check it. If you want to see a video I did, there's a proper way to check automatic transmission fluid. You can check that video out via the link across the top down in the description. Now another thing, we're going to head back to that other vehicle. Now that we've gone through checking the tires, checking for leaks under the vehicle, making sure that your fluids are topped off. If they're not, topping them off accordingly. The next thing I'm going to show you is what I keep in the trunk just in case something happens and you need to be prepared. Let's head over there and take a look. I always like to keep stuff in the trunk. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Let me show you what I have in here. Always travel with some jumper cables. You never know when you're going to need it, or you might run into someone else who needs a jump and you're prepared. Also have a little toolbox in here. Just some different tools as far as sockets, wrenches, ratchets, screwdrivers, things like that, just in case. And I've had this happen before where I've been on the road, had to swap out an alternator one time. I had a vehicle of mine stalled out with an alternator, had to go to a parts store, swap it out right there in the parking lot. Another time had to change out an O2 sensor. Also, carry a breaker bar. Always carry a breaker bar because if you ever need to change your tires, sometimes they're over-torqued, depending where you last had them done, and the breaker bar comes in handy to get those lug nuts off. If you want to see a video I did on how to remove stuck lug nuts, I'll have that down in the description as well. And then off to the side here, I always carry extra oil. Also, transmission fluid if you have a vehicle where you can add to it. And I always carry at least a gallon of water, just in case you have an issue. I've had that happen before too with a vehicle overheating, had a head gasket issue, had to add water to it so I could get to a safe spot. Keep all of that in here as well. And then underneath here, I also have my spare, and I also have a tire inflator. Always want to have that on hand as well because you never know what's going to happen. You want to be prepared. All right, well, that wraps up this video. Just wanted to talk a little bit about how I prepare if I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling or going on a road trip. Just to recap real quick, we checked our tires. We checked for leaks around the brakes. We checked for leaks under the vehicle. We made sure all of our fluid was fine under the hood. If it wasn't, we topped it off accordingly. Next thing we did is we came here in the back, made sure that we had tools and any safety things needed just in case something goes wrong. And that's pretty much the things that I check before I go on a road trip. Just quick check. Anybody can do it. Better to play it safe and not need it than to be out in a situation and then need it. So I hope that this was informative for you. Please send me any questions and comments. I would love to hear from you. And as always, I appreciate all the support. So please like the video, Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the links down in the description that expound on some of this stuff. I'll see you next time.